start talking about it. Oops, thanks, showing. All right. Hey, hey, folks. So today it is September the 3rd, and we are going to finish up our lecture on the Gilded Age. And then we have some questions at the end that I'm hoping everyone knows the answer to. So next week, I plan on giving out a quiz. I'm going to make a Quizlet for it and share that on the Google Classroom. So it's something I'm going to do today. I'm not sure if I can do it this afternoon. I'm going to be busy with some training stuff, but I'll get it up. So, and let's begin. So, hey, we talked about this last time, right? Remember where? Did we? We had. Do y'all remember this picture? Yes. Okay, good. So remember, we were talking about, so yeah, there's a lot of immigration, but people who are already in America were very selective on where they wanted people to come from. And we talked about various reasons why this was when it was. And it's kind of a reoccurring theme you see throughout American history. In fact, you see this in world history. It's not an American phenomenon, you know. I mean, the world, you see that kind of thing throughout the world. But hey, you know, we just can't bash things left and right, because even though there were some things such as inequalities and stuff like that, there was a massive growth in the quality of most people's lives. People had more food, more items of comfort. They had more time, oddly enough, for leisure, you know, recreation. So you see the opening up things like parks, kind of like theme parks, sports. People are playing sports now, the growth of professional sports teams. More people are going to the theater to go listen to music, going to the beach, dances. Schools are starting to open up where you can have children educated. People are spending more money on clothing for the sake of fashion instead of just wearing something that doesn't stink too bad, you know, and hold up to the field work. Yes, sir.
That's a real picture.
Yes, sir. That is a really real picture.
From back then.
Yes, sir. From back then.
Whoa.
I'm not sure where this is though. I mean, I don't know. Yeah.
It's a very high quality picture.
I know. Very high quality.
Black and white pictures were often, especially after the Guerrero-graphs and stuff like that, were often pretty good quality.
It's 180p.
So, like, especially before digitized photography, often you could get better detail with black and white than you could with color photos.
I can see that.
Yeah.
Like, so before pre-digitized photos, yeah, you would, if you want something closer to HD, you might want to have black and white photos instead. So just so you know, yo. All right, so moving right along, still continuing on with these social issues. So industry led to urbanization of America. So industry, you know, working in factories, manufacturing goods to sell, led to the growth of cities. As many workers lived near their factories. We talked about that. Cities were crowded. Yeah. Unsanitary. Yeah, they were stinky and lacked modern infrastructure. So the roads were often dirt roads. Sewage systems were either non-existent or they didn't work that well. Running water came from a hand pump. So, you know, it's pretty bad. Diseases such as dysentery, which is related to cholera in its symptoms, were chronic problems due to proximity and lack of cleanliness. So that's why you don't drink potty water, you get sick. Crime and fires were also higher in cities than in rural areas. Well, yeah, where there's more people living with one another, things catch on fire, spreads out. Especially back then, because more things were made of less safe materials, and codes, those kind of things. And crime, I mean, that's why some of the founding fathers, like Jefferson, said we shouldn't build big cities, especially cities where people lived in multi-story homes. Because ancient Romans believed this too, that if the more people you have living together, the more crime. I mean, in that case. But hey, this leads to the creation of local fire and police departments. So Fire departments weren't like a new thing. There had been like professional people who put out fires since the time of the Romans. In fact, Cicero, that was one of his famous court cases because he's putting on trial a guy who had a fire department, and how they'd make money is they'd set your house on fire, and then they would say, "Hey, your house is on fire, pay us or it's going to burn down." And so you paid them to put the fire out. If you didn't pay them, yeah, well,
What's his name?
I forgot the guy.
This is
But well, yeah, it worked for a while. It's kind of like, I mean, that's what extortion is. You know, that's what the mob does. Hey, pay us or we're gonna break your window. They don't pay you, break the window. Sanitation was slowly improved with the introduction of modern sewers and city codes. So city code might be something like this: Hey, Mr. Butcher Shop guy, when you clean hogs and chop them up into meat, please don't dump their organs and heads and stuff in the street. Yeah, so now they had to take it out of the city.
like Paris.
Yeah, because this is even medieval cities knew that butcher shops got to take that nasty stuff out of the town. But whenever you had people not told what to do, sometimes they don't do the right thing. Many immigrants sought the company of others like themselves to establish ethnic neighborhoods in their cities. This is especially noticeable in places like Los Angeles. They have they have a big part of their town just for Japanese citizens. And it's going to be like that for a long time until World War II, when they're put in internment camps, and then the locals take all their property. Or like in New York, they have part of town for the Italians, part of town for the Irish, and stuff like that. And of course in the South, you would have like west part of town, and you have the west part of town. But a lot of this, not everywhere was this regulated, but they have laws telling you to do this. A lot of this had to do with, especially with immigrant people, they wanted to go where everybody spoke their language and their customs and their memories. They might even know each other. So that's what people do. Okay. Let's make a drink. You touch your suffering. All right, so yeah, we talked about some of this before. Let's Henry, are they saying you're a one-eyed cat?
That's a fish.
That's a fish.
What is it? What is it?
It looks like a one-eyed cat.
I don't know what that is.
That's a fish.
I thought it was an angry bird at first.
Den of Thieves, that's what the game was called. It looks like the little creatures from Den of Thieves.
It looks like some dumps in that.
No, we played that, never mind. Never
Okay, it could be like a living dumpling.
Yeah, it's a living dumpling.
Yeah, so, oh man, I love pot stickers. Gosh, that's good food. Hey, let's move on. I think we've heard enough about this.
That's true. Picture of the
Hey, what do we see here? What is this?
America.
Well, yeah,
This is
America.
Yeah.
Mexico.
This is
The 48 contiguous states.
This is America.
Question. Why is New Mexico County Mexico? New?
Ooh. Look, I might get this wrong, but I think it got its name back when it was part of Mexico. Like us. I kind of like, yeah, well, Texas got its name back when it was part of Spain, and then Mexico kept it, and then the Texans kept it, and America kept it. Texas kept it.
So what states from the USA were part of Mexico?
Oh shoot, yeah, like a lot of it. Like
I know it was
A lot of
Texas,
it.
California,
California.
Nevada, Arizona, New Mexico, Texas, a lot of Colorado, Utah, some of Louisiana. I think that's about it.
They had all of that?
Yeah. Well,
So what happened to?
Well, I
what happened to-
well, and when Spain had it, it was like when Spain had it. Gosh, it was like kind of like here on. That's like Spain. Well, different things happened. Part of it was like when it was under part of. A lot of it was given up by Napoleon, back when Napoleon conquered Spain. And then you had the Texas Revolution, where a lot of this land became independent.
My question is.
Yeah.
My question is, how did all of that come up to be one whole country? Like, I know it started with the colonies and stuff,
Uh-huh.
but how did the other ones?
Like a lot of this was from the Mexican-American War. Mexico was angry that Texas became part of the United States because there was reasons why. Because the Texas captured President Santa Anna and signed Texas a peace treaty. Mexico was like, you can't take someone prisoner and make them sign a peace treaty. You can't do that. You can't point a gun at somebody and make them sign it.
So,
On the clock.
so,
They got mad and they had a war about it. Mexico lost the war.
Really?
So America kept that.
On the
But
block.
California also had its own little revolution too, so it became independent like that, and decided to join America. Some of this was actually, a lot of this was actually bought after the war too. So the United States paid the new Mexican government, and they said, okay, you can keep it, just pay us.
What's that place on the
and
bottom
how did the like Puerto Rico and Hawaii?
Okay. Now, Puerto Rico was way later. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the Spanish American one. Hawaii is going to be kind of weird because it's going to be discovered by England. And Americans are going to start opening up kind of like big farming businesses there. And eventually they're going to get mad at the Queen and kind of take over Hawaii. And it's going to be part of America that way.
So basically, America took over all of those states and Hawaii.
Yeah. And the one in Hawaii was kind of like one of those weird things. This was from a good old fashioned war, and then there was a treaty and a purchase. But yeah, Hawaii was a bit different.
So why
What
on
is
that
that
war
red
just for
thing?
that plot of land?
Well, okay. Now, this is something we're talking about next semester. But a lot of it had to do with some people had a sense of they wanted to help out Texas because they felt like Texas needed things. But some of it too had to do with politics. You had some people wanted to expand. They want to expand the idea of places where people could move out and open farms. And some wanted to expand where people could move out and expand like slavery system and stuff like that, which was how a lot of people made a lot of money back then.
So
California was kind of different. California had nice land and stuff, but you had a lot of people who were like gringos invited by America. I mean, not invited by Mexico, but then they decided to have a revolution. Kind of like Texas, you had a lot of white guys come over who were invited by Mexico to go live there, and eventually they're like, we want to be independent. Because that kind of like when it happened in Texas, because Mexico had a dictator. But when it happened in California, it's just they were kind of like, hey, they were over there, but Mexico was so far away, they didn't have anything to do with Mexico, so they're like, why not be part of America?
What's that thing at the bottom right corner?
Oh, that's Cuba.
That red thing?
Yeah, I don't know why that's on this graphic.
It looks like you got like.
We will see later that we will have the Spanish-American War. We'll start with Cuba. We'll get to that later. But hey, let's look at the key. Immigrants, foreign-born, and children of foreign-born or mixed parentage by country. So what this shows us, if it's a cool color like blue and purple, has a high percentage of people who are new to America. If If it's a warm color, yellow or orange, it's people who, their ancestors have been here for a while. So what do you see about like the traditional old South?
There's a lot of new people.
No, it's yellow. That means there's less. That's us. So that means a lot of the people here are either of African ancestry or they're from British Isles, like old school 13 colonies, right?
Yeah.
So, this is the old Confederate States and stuff like that. So not a lot of migration there, but there's a lot of migration up north. And of course, here, Mexican-American border and stuff like that. So what you see is there's different regions have different populations changing hands and moving around. And we all know that. I mean, we all know some places have more people move to than others. That's just how it is. Now, immigration had lasting effects on American culture and demographics. Yeah. Economic conditions and political persecution at home led the immigrants to come to America. So we're talking about push-pull factors with human migration. There's things that pull people to a country, and there's things that push people from a country. Civil war, religious persecution, disease, starvation, government abuse. This pushes people out of an old country. Joblessness. But there are things that pulled people to America. America must not have been that bad. We had so many people claim to come here. So, yay, America. So, what jobs? A lot more freedom, actually. So, you had some countries that were taxing heavily, or there was no land to go move into. You didn't have as many rights as far as to decide what your career would be. So, America looked pretty good in that aspect. Europeans mostly immigrated to the cities along the East Coast. Many Hispanic immigrants came to the southern states. Well, yeah, because the South is close to a lot of America. But back to migration. I mean, that's true. Push-pull factors are true for local migration too. When you move to a new town, you have different reasons to move to a new town. A career, education. You have reasons to move out of the town. Crime, high taxes, hate to commute. There's reasons why. Or to the country. So, Western states had a greater source of immigrants from Asia. Yeah, because they're on the west coast. Yeah, go ahead. Close to Asia. The Pacific Ocean connects to Japan, China, and the rest of it. Back then, this is before they had airplanes or the Panama Canal and stuff. The only way to get on a boat and to get to the East Coast would be to go all the way around the southern tip of South America and back. People didn't want to do that. So generally, if you're like Chinese, Japanese, or other Asian or Pacific descent, you would just go to California and stick around there. America was infused with cultural changes. These immigrants, people bring their culture with them. And culture is usually tied to language, usually. You have the growth of Catholicism. Because a lot of the folks who come over are Italians, lots of Catholics. Irish, lots of Catholics. Hispanics, lots of Catholics. Asians, no. But that's all right. And so,
What would ever?
yeah, it really depended. Some are Buddhists, but like a lot of Chinese people were Taoists. So were some of the people in Japan as well. Though it's different. All right, yeah. So, but also led to fierce loss of political power and economic opportunities for locals. So, remember that was one of the reasons why you had laws against, say, Chinese immigration. It's because people were like, they're taking our jobs. So they stopped it. Another thing too, if you're that map I showed you, that was also a clearly drawn line between Democrats and Republicans. The South was strongly held by Republicans, and the political power was mostly guys who were white and Protestant and had been there for a long time, English ancestors. Okay. But where you see the places where they have more immigrants is also where you have more industry. So you have more Republicans in charge. And so we all know that nowadays it's kind of flipped, where now it's more Democrats in more of those regions and Republicans are in the other regions. Yeah, we'll talk about that later. When we get there, like modern history. So just know some people fear change. Of course, not all change is good. But we do know that this is what we were talking about with the melting pot. People come into the country, and usually by second, third generation, they live and breathe in American culture. Remember, you don't have to write all that down. Hey, y'all ready to move on to the next one?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll give you a minute. Because I think we're, how many more? It's like 2 more, maybe? Let me check. Yep, 2 more. Good stuff. Good stuff. But I mean, everybody think about it. This all makes sense. America isn't just the way it was back during the 13 colonies where everybody came from England or the Netherlands, Yeah, the Dutch. Those people who live kind of like northeast of France, north of Germany. They make chocolate. Dutch chocolate. The Pilgrims mostly. All right. Hey, let's move on. Hey, who's this guy? Who do you think he is?
Is that telephone?
Oh, it's his last name's Bell, right?
Alexander Graham Bell, inventor of the telephone. So America's teeming with a lot of inventions right now. No, we're not the only ones making inventions. You got a lot of, say, like French inventors, English inventors, and stuff like that. But what makes America cool is something we get from England, and that's called patents. And a patent is when you make an invention, you submit it to the patent office, and only you are allowed to make that item or give somebody permission to make it. So you get all the money off of it. Now, patents eventually wear out, and then other people can too, and it varies from item to item. But it gives people incentive to make new things. Like when I make something new, and if people want to buy it, they can only buy it from me. So I want to make it get rich, So we talked a bit about technology before, but here's some more. I really need to rearrange some of these slides so they can be like together with their relative slides. So electricity. With electricity, production was increased due to improvements in machinery. Like electric motors work a lot better than like steam engines or water-driven machinery and stuff like that. Eventually leading to assembly lines, like we talked about with like Henry Ford, and then you're going to see that move on to other things as well. So you piece things together, and they all have the same parts that are part of a measurable system, so that if something breaks, you can order the new part instead of having a blacksmith try to hammer something out that'll work. So it's really cool, really innovative, helps us out a lot. Light bulbs. It's nice. I mean, especially back before kerosene, when the lights went out outside and the sun went down, especially in the winter, like that's the end of your day, especially if you live up north and you got like 4 hours of sunlight. Great, 4-hour day. Now the rest of the world's dark. I mean, that's dumb. And so people just don't. So light bulbs allow for increased productivity. You can stay up and actually see longer, like read or something, and improve quality of life through the nation. Yeah. Telephones. 1876, the invention. You don't have to memorize that date. I just put it up here because it's a thing. Same with petroleum. Petroleum. 1859, Edwin L. Drake struck oil, greatly aiding kerosene. Talking about American oil. People had known about oil before this. the first recorded finding of oil was by people who were with Alexander the Great when he was on his way to conquer India. They saw big pools of this bubbling black stuff. And they're like, huh, catches on fire easy. Neat. And then they moved on. So kerosene is made from petroleum, kind of like gasoline. They can heat the stuff up and boil it at different temperatures, from what I understand, and synthesize different chemicals out of it, kerosene being one. You can use this to fuel lamps. So, lamps are better than dark, but eventually light bulbs will be better than that. Kerosene burns for a long time, burns bright, but you want electricity because you need a whole lot of kerosene if you're relying on that for like all of your nighttime light for a year. We're talking about probably like a couple 100 gallons of this stuff, and that'd be no bueno. All right, so you can see, you can call your grandma, you could have a machine run. Pretty cool. We all like living this stuff now, and it just works. It's amazing. I mean, don't even have to work hard to make the lights come on. Get hungry, you just throw that Hot Pocket in the microwave. Bam, and then you burn your tongue.
That's what I always do after I get off school. I always throw a Hot Pocket.
My kids will eat them. So I throw Hot Pockets in. All right. Hey, you gotta be careful with little kids though. You give them a Hot Pocket straight out of the microwave, they'll just try to eat it and then just scald their mouth.
What are you talking about?
Yeah, but if you get burnt, nobody's just, it's like, stop doing that. But if like 2-year-old gets burnt, you're like, oh no, what did I do? A little different. Just one more. We'll be done with this unit. It'll be great. It's so great. The next unit is going to be, I think it's a little more interesting than this one. I'm not going to lie. The Progressive Era has, we're going to talk more about politics, like Teddy Roosevelt and World War I, Spanish-American War, and, stuff like that. A lot of things that we think of as modern start then. So we'll get to see that start coming up. That's not so bad. Where it's like, this era, it's kind of like, okay. I mean, you still got the old West around here. So if you think about like cowboys, revolvers and stuff, this is the time period. I never liked cowboys.
It's so cold.
It can be. I don't know. It's the default. Thing is, if I change it, after like a couple hours, it'll reset back down to whatever the temperature's set. So I don't know who set the computer to be like that. But even if I go to the office and if I beg them, hey, will you please fix it for me? Because I press the button and it just gets reset. It'll do the same thing for them. Dr. Morse had a problem with that. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I don't know. I feel fine.
My mom was trying to make it, but what thing because we still wanted to make the blankets. It's cool. It's still cold.
Well, if we had a full classroom like we're supposed to, where I've got like 20 people in here, it would be quite a few degrees warmer. But you got like this stuff that's been happening in the past 4 months, so you got less people in the classroom. So
Also, colder air somehow kills germs.
Oh yeah, that's why hospitals are cold.
That's why my one math teacher in the 8th grade constantly hit the room like 50 degrees.
huh.
She's also a math teacher, so that's what children.
Well, I kind of like it being colder because I'm telling you, when the room gets packed, it gets hotter, and if I move around, I feel better. So, hey, let's do the last one. All right. So, boop. Hey, what do you see here?
A bridge.
A bridge.
No, wait, is this both? Is this London?
I think this one's actually.
This is London.
It does? No, I think this one's actually in New York.
No, this is like London.
Oh, I see. Okay.
I think this is New York. But here's the thing. Like, remember we talked about steel? They're making steel beams. Steel is really cool because it's really strong, but it's a little flexible. Because if you make a bridge out of nothing but like stone and mortar, it's brittle. So if you get something like winds are too strong, time, weathering, or like tremors, like a mild earthquake, it crumbles and falls apart. Where these can sway a little bit, just a little bit, and not crumble. It's kind of like one of the cool things about steel. Steel production. Improvements in steel manufacturing leads to faster steel production and better construction. So we're talking about, we had the thing called the Bessemer process, where they're able to make cheap steel fast. And this was really good for guys like Andrew Carnegie, who had U.S. Steel. And they would just pump out a whole bunch of this, especially for railroads. But of course, we also see that they're using it for bridges and buildings, taller buildings. They're using it for the skeletons of these buildings so they can get taller. And when they're hit with big winds, they're not like feeling it. Yeah, and so that also they can bear more weight. They're stronger. Agriculture. So remember we talked about agriculture. You don't have to memorize these, but with agriculture, we were talking about how the farmers had to keep up with technology. Some of those things that had to do with technology was mechanical reapers, which would, of course, collect up the grain and stuff. Steel plows, which were able to very effectively and deeply, even if you didn't have a tractor, cut into the soil. And if you could cut deeper into the soil, you could till it better to where your plants could grow better. However, in some places like the Great Plains region, they're going to over-till it, and the soil's very thin, and it's not being replenished by billions and millions of buffalo poop like it used to be. And so what are you going to get? You're going to get the Dust Bowl. Oh no, because there's nothing to, like, there's no grass holding it down anymore. We'll talk about that later. Refrigeration, we talked about that. Canned food, that's like a big deal. I mean, because canned food lets people like transport it to areas. They get to hold on to it longer. It's even going to aid in things like military food or exploration, like people exploring like deep into Africa or the North Pole. They bring canned food with them. Long voyages on a boat. So, and it's going to help out farmers. This one, the Dawes Act, I need to edit this and put this with the Native American thing. I put this in here because I always forget to mention it. So I put it at the very end of the slide. So 1887 divided up Indian lands into plots to force Native Americans into American-style agriculture. We are going to talk about things about this period later. Like when we talk about the Civil Rights era, we're going to talk about things like Plessy versus Ferguson that happened in this time period. That's when you had the Supreme Court say separate but equal. And so that it allowed Jim Crow laws for like kids who were Black or even Hispanic here in Texas would have to go to their own schools, use their own bathrooms and stuff like that. But we have a unit on that. And so I chose to keep that in its unit instead of in the time period. So we are going to talk about that. So, So this is the last one for the notes. And after that, I got a few questions for you that I want you to do your best to answer, but it's open note. Open note. Yeah. So when you're done taking your notes, without the use of electromagic phones, so without using phones, when we're done with this last slide, you get to use your notes and you get to answer some questions. Right. Before the end of class. And we have to end class because I got a Zoom call at 2:30. I really want to do, and we're gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. You're not gonna do it. Don't worry. 10.
Well.
Because I want to make sure that you are getting the knowledge that will help you. Yeah, and I made them last year, so why not use them? All right, Rebecca. Mhm. That's right. So y'all let me know when you're done. You won't pull them up. So I would like it on a separate sheet of paper. The title will be Gilded Age Question. There's just all I need is your answer choice. After you turn them in, if we have time, we'll talk about it. So, good stuff. Good stuff. Yeah, when we come back on Tuesday, we'll start the next unit. But your quiz will not be over your next unit. It'll only be over this one. Yeah. And it won't be tough. It won't be too tough. Really, it really won't be. It'll be multiple choice. It'll be we'll do it. It'll be doable. We do doable things here. We are challenged, but we do doable things.
Is this going to be continued next time?
It's the next. The questions are on the next slide. So, everybody ready? All right. So everybody get out a piece of paper, put your name on it, and the title is Gilded Age Questions. This is not a quiz or a test. This is a simple daily grade we're going to do. And then we'll have 2 daily grades done. We kind of waited a while to get grades in this class. Other classes have like 4 or 5 grades in. So we got it.
Why do I have 100 in these guys?
Because you turned in something that has 100 on it. Because you're so smart. Hey, all you have to do on this one is pick A, B, C, or D on your paper. You don't have to write anything. If you want, I can read them out loud to you.
What is that? What's a good
All right, see where this is going. So, which of the following best characterizes the Gilded Age? The discovery of gold fields in the West led to an increase in the amount of money issued for circulation. Industrialists use their. Oh, yeah, wait. I'm going to tell the online kids to do it. Hey, if you're following us online, at the end of the slides that I posted in our Google Classroom, I want you to answer the 10 questions on the last 10 slides on a Google Doc. And I'm going to make a little section for you to submit that right now. So go ahead and get started on that, and I'll open up the assignment. See you Tuesday.
Wait, so what do we title this podcast?